You're with The Good Word, where it's time to welcome a special guest here to talk about a favourite book. He's among the cream of the new crop of talented New Zealand singer-songwriters. We're all in love with his solo album, Chant Darling, which he recorded under the name Lawrence Arabia. His mother knows him better as James Milne, and here he is. Hi, James.
Hey, Emily.
Thanks for coming on.
You're
Take
welcome.
a seat. So what's the book that you brought in to talk about today?
It's a book called The Mezzanine by Nicholson Baker.
How did you come across it?
My friend Gareth Shute told me about it first, and we were talking about sort of, I guess, comic American novels and, you know, so maybe in a sort of postmodern vein. And he recommended this as being, you know, something that would go along those lines. And
what is it about it that most appeals to you?
It explores these. It's basically the plot is a journey as a young office worker enters a lobby and travels up an escalator, and the whole story.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
The whole story is just it just explodes his thoughts as he goes up this escalator and basically just extrapolates it to the nth degree. So
it's one lunch hour, and it's the whole book, and it's achieved by this amazing attention to detail.
Yeah.
So everything he notices, he's got some kind of memory or thought process about, yeah?
Yeah, yeah. He, you know, it begins that he's basically there's a whole series of events which start with him breaking a shoelace, and then it just goes through. He goes to buy a shoelace, and then on the way he buys a carton of milk, and then there's a whole discussion of this technology of straws and the transition from paper to plastic straws, and
right.
and just when you think it's going somewhere, it goes into a footnote about some other completely unrelated or maybe vaguely related kind of concept that he's observed. So
with this kind of obsessive attention and observation, is that the sort of thing that you try to achieve in your lyrics? I mean, you've just won the Silver Scroll Award for your songwriting, which is, congratulations.
Thank you.
Is that something that you try to go for, this looking at the surface of things very precisely? Yeah,
I think definitely. In a lot of my songs, I've ended up focusing on smaller aspects rather than you know, grander sort of emotional picture, and it might be almost a sort of way of avoiding really connecting emotionally, but at the same time it does, you know, when you get that sort of sense of recognition in the mezzanine, you know, when you notice these tiny things, but they're actually really funny when you realise that, you know, wouldn't normally think about them. And I think I can, you know, maybe my songs are a little bit funny sometimes, and I think some of that is to do with that sense of recognition. So you get that sort of yes moment, and there's a kind of emotional connection in that, even if you're not being made to cry or... Yeah, totally. And told about love. And that, I mean, this book is full of yes moments. It's just a book completely comprised of yes moments. Oh, that's great. Yeah. And it's a beautiful way to put it. Thanks very much. James Milne's favourite book was The Mezzanine by Nicholson Baker, published by Granta. And now we're off to meet this week's reading group, the urbanely named Street Book Club.
It really is absolutely brilliant that it's a street book group.
I actually got invited to join from the annual street party. That's how friendly the street is. This is perfect. On the street, way to meet the neighbours, and it's been really great. Much more interactive than just the books.
Yeah.
It's cheese and wine, and you're just up the road. You don't even have to drive. It's very convenient.
We've all been guilty of not completely reading a book for one reason or another, but sometimes we just can't come to grips with it. But most of the time we do read it.
It does raise the issue of a book which Maria chose last year called The Odd Woman, a 70s novel which had dated rather badly about a liberated American academic lady having a long-distance affair with a professor in another university, which went on for a couple of years, and she was finally told by her lesbian friend that all she had to show for it was 14 furtive fucks. And that was on page 414 of the book. And nobody else recognised that quote when I produced it. So So I wonder about who finishes what.
I much prefer having male and female. I think if it was all one sex, then you'd miss such a lot of the richness of the whole discussion, really.
I completely concur with that. So I was emailing a friend of mine in the UK recently and extolling the fact that I joined this really interesting book club, and I said the fact that it's mixed was one of the really big appeals for me.
I wonder what would be different, though.
Maybe the book choices.
Pardon?
Book choices, possibly, for one thing.
Ah, yes.
I mean, the one on the list for next one, I would never have picked that off the shelf. That, to me, looks like a guy picked that one. Sort of more of an action-adventure one. As opposed to kind of thoughtful character type stuff that a woman would probably pick.
It shouldn't be a secret, though. I mean, we should know who selects the books. I find it's very interesting to know that.
Well, we usually discover that by the end of the evening, haven't we?
I wonder who chose this one, then.
I think I do. I'm not too sure.
Yes.
I think I might have.
Oh, okay. Good choice there, John.
But I didn't really... I mean, I'd like to know if I did choose it.
I was going to say, we sometimes don't even remember which ones we did choose.
No, we don't.
No.
We don't.
In the interest of gender honesty, I suppose, I'd have to say that I think the two worst books that we've had, or that I found the worst, one about the gypsies and one about the architecture of European railway stations.
I love that.
With sentences that went on for 2 and 3 pages with no paragraphs.
I think that was one I didn't finish.
After the break, Philipp Meyer takes a look at a famous New Zealand book of the past.